Hello everyone and welcome back to Law Talks with Ummaty. In today's video, we'll be delving into a crucial aspect of Nigerian law, trespass to the person. We'll explore the meaning of trespass to the person, the three types of trespass to the person, and the essential elements needed to establish a case in Nigeria. So let's dive right in. So what is trespass to the person? Trespass to the person refers to intentionally or unlawfully causing harm or interfering with someone's physical well-being or personal space without their consent. There are three types of trespass to the person. There is assault, there is battery, and there is false imprisonment. Now let's talk about assault and battery first. Normally, when you say someone has assaulted you, it means that they have made a physical attack on you. Maybe they slapped or punched you. But under the law of torts, assault and battery are two different and separate torts. So here, assault is an attempt or threat to apply unlawful force to another person whereby that person is put in fear of violence. This means that you have maybe made an attempt or a move to use unlawful force on them and it scared them. You've maybe raised your hand to slap somebody and they cowered before you, but you're yet to put your hands on them. It means you've assaulted them. There are four things you should watch out for when it comes to assault. And the first one is there is an attempt to apply force to another person. Second one is there is an apparent ability to carry out that threat. 3, it puts the person in fear of them being battered. And the fourth one is contact is unnecessary. You mustn't have made the contact. In assault, the elements needed to prove it are that there was a threat to apply force, and this means that it was reasonable for you to expect battery from the person. For example, pointing an unloaded gun at a person who does not know it's unloaded is an assault. That person does not know it's unloaded. Shaking your fist at another person or even looking through their window with the intention to scare them is assault. Sometimes words may amount to assault. For example, threatening phone calls. In R versus Ireland and Burstow, the defendant and victim were engaged in a short romantic relationship which the victim ended, and the man was unhappy that she ended it, so he proceeded to harass her over several months, making repeated phone calls, delivering hate mail, appearing unexpectedly, harassing her neighbors and family, causing her to sustain psychiatric injury. That's depression. Particular. The defendant was found guilty of assault as he had put her in a state of fear of physical harm, although he did not physically attack her. The second element to establish assault is the act will put a reasonable man in fear of battery. This means that the act must put a reasonable man in fear of violence being committed on his person. So if the threat wouldn't put a reasonable man in fear of violence, then assault isn't committed. So we've talked about assault, which is the threat of application of force on another person. Let's talk about the actual application of force, which is battery. This is another kind of trespass to the person. Battery is the intentional application of force to another person without legal justification. It could be striking or touching a person in a rude, vengeful, angry, or insolent manner, which is direct battery. It could also be by bringing another object in contact with that person. Maybe you strike them with a piece of wood or whatever you can lay your hands on. That's indirect battery. So when it comes to battery, we'll be looking out for the following things to determine if you have been battered. And the first one is unlawful application of force without your consent. And the contact must be direct or indirect. You mustn't have sustained any kind of injury, and the act must be intentional or negligent. And the elements needed to prove a commission of battery are, the first one is application of force, no matter how slight, no matter how little that person has put their hands on you or used something to hit you. And then there is intention to apply that force. It's necessary to prove intention to apply that force because the smallest contact can be considered battery. It's important for you to understand that the smallest contact can be considered battery. A policeman holding your arm in order to detain you for questioning, and this happens a lot in Nigeria. Police officer committing battery during questioning or during protests. Mere drenching of a person in water can be considered battery. You throw someone a bucket of water. Or your hairdresser giving you a treatment which you did not ask for, as was held in the case of Nash versus Sheen. Kissing a woman against her will can be considered battery. Battery can also be an omission to do something. For example, where a policeman asks a man to park his car and the man mistakenly drove the car to land on top of the policeman's foot. But when asked to reverse, the man refused. He was held liable for battery. The third type of trespass to the person is false imprisonment. False imprisonment occurs when a person is unlawfully restrained by arrest, confinement, or prevention of movement from a particular place. False imprisonment is a breach of your fundamental right to personal liberty. Imprisonment usually means locking up, but in this case it has a wider meaning. What this means is that any restraint of the liberty of a person is imprisonment, even if he is not within the walls of a prison. So you can be imprisoned in a house, or even by being forcibly detained in the public streets. The things you need to look out for to determine whether you've been falsely imprisoned are: the first one, being deprived of your personal liberty and freedom of movement without just cause. Someone will prevent you from moving. Second one is being compelled to remain where you don't want to be or to go to where you don't want to go. The third one is the restraint need not to be in a cell or prison. It could be out in the open, in the middle of the street. Someone stops you and prevents you from moving. There need not be battery. The person mustn't have hit you, and the person could have used authority, influence, order, trick, or request, as long as the person is available. You also need not to be aware they are being detained at the time. For example, a person was taken to his employer's office to answer some questions regarding a theft, and unknown to him, guards were stationed outside the office to prevent him from leaving. And when he found out, he sued for false imprisonment, although he did not know that the guards were outside until he came out. The seventh one is restraint must be total or complete. In the case of the Queen versus Lambo, Sokoto, a man caught hold of a girl in the street, took her to his room, undressed her, forced her to kneel down naked, and placed a piece of cloth on her head. And by means of a hypnotic trance, she was unable to move or speak. He immobilized her until the girl's father and a policeman who were looking for her arrived at his room. On request by the police officer, the accused promised to release the girl if he was treated gently, which he did by calling the name of the girl 3 times and by speaking to her in a language unknown to them. After that, she was able to speak and move. The judge, when the case was taken to court, the judge held that she was falsely imprisoned. You should also note that for false imprisonment to be considered as such, there must be no other means of escape for the person imprisoned to explore. And if there is a means of escape, then it should be reasonable. So if someone gets you in a place and locks the door, refusing to let you out through the door, but says, hey, you can leave through the window, but the building where you're being imprisoned is a story building and you're several floors above the ground, leaving through the window could mean falling to your death. That is not a reasonable means of escape. You've been falsely imprisoned. Therefore, a means of escape that will endanger the life of the person imprisoned is not a defense for the person doing the imprisoning. Also, for restraint for even a short period of time is still false imprisonment, so no matter how short the duration of the time is, that imprisonment is still false. These 3 shots we've discussed are what we call trespass to the person, assault, battery, and false imprisonment. If you find yourself a victim of any of the 3, remember to prioritize your safety, report the incident, gather evidence, and seek legal advice. Knowledge of your rights is crucial in upholding justice and protecting yourself. Thank you for joining us today and stay informed. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more informative content. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay legally aware. Thank you.